Hi, I'm Mark Hoebee, producing artistic director at Paper Mill Playhouse. Welcome back to Babbling by the Brook. Tonight, I'm really excited to talk to a very good friend and frequent collaborator, the brilliant director and choreographer, JoAnn Hunter. Hi, JoAnn, how are you?
Hi, Mark Hoebee. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. It's so great to see your beautiful face.
Oh, you have to with the Scruffle McScruffles.
A little scruffy. Where are you?
We have a house about an hour, 10 minutes north of New York. It's called Kent, New York. So we're here and we've been here since March 13th, Friday the 13th. But
Wow.
so grateful to have it.
And I thought we'd chat a little bit about your incredible career and our long relationship, because you and I made our Broadway debuts together, I think.
Yes, we did.
In this.
There it is, the gold, and that's a collector's item because the other posters that came out were not. That's the original poster, right?
I just think of that show as the greatest dance musical of all time. You know, I mean, the collection of choreography and varied styles and just an amazing collection of Jerome's work. Talk to us just a little bit about what that experience was like.
Well, I was very lucky. I mean, I agree with you 100 and gazillion percent. I think Jerry is my idol. Like when I work, I think how I imagined he worked, or I know how he worked, how he thought. But Jerry was a storyteller first and foremost. And that's why he was also a good director. Do you know what I mean? What I liked about Jerry, exactly what you said, Mark, that style was varied depending on what the material called for. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like. Sometimes I get asked, well, what's your style? I go, whatever the piece calls for is my style. I don't need to just do one thing, or I don't want to do one thing. I want to be able to interpret whatever the material needs to be, and that's what I think made him such a good storyteller. And everything had a meaning. There was a reason why he did things. I remember when Jerome Robbins was my second time working with Jerry. My first time was the national tour of West Side Story. Where he came in the last 3 weeks of rehearsal in tech. And I heard him tell the Jets why they do this one swoop thing. Like, I was like blown away by his articulation. And I just thought, to me, I went, that's what makes it interesting for a dancer or even a non-dancer. And that's why non-dancers can also grasp onto any choreographer that has meaning behind its movement. You can grasp onto that. You might not be able to execute it the way a dancer may be, but then a choreographer can also change it to adjust. And I think that's what Jerry did so brilliantly. I mean, my opinion anyway.
I agree with you. I think, first of all, being cast in that show for myself, and I'm sure for you too, and we still have reunions all the time, that group of people, was kind of the blessing, the mark that you were the elite dancer, certainly of that time, because so much was required of you. The ballet technique, the physicality, the almost gymnastic effect of some of the choreography, and not just West Side, but when you think about even Fiddler and King and I, very athletic choreography and stylized. And it's funny that you and I both had similar journeys starting as dancers. And then you've had a huge career of shows that you performed in, and I'm just going to name a few on Broadway. Jerome Robbins, Shogun, tell me if I miss any. Miss Saigon, Guys and Dolls, Damn Yankees, How to Succeed in Business, Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, Chicago, Steel Pier, Kiss Me Kate, Thou Shalt Not, Millie?
There's one missing.
Oh. Curtains.
No, I was not a performer then.
Oh, right. Well, we'll think about it.
We'll think about it.
But anyway, and then moving, you learn so much as a dancer, but then now you're a choreographer and a director. And I agree with you too. The lessons we learned working with Jerome were unlike anyone else. And the thing that I think was so great about him was the information he gave you, but he could do every step and every moment better than anybody else.
Yes.
Right? He taught by example many times. And it was sometimes frustrating not to do it as well as he did.
I know, especially the character stuff he would do, because you know his acting in High Button Shoes, and there was a number, oh god, that Charlotte did with
Kelly,
Louis Perez and
and
Kelly
Kelly.
Patterson, is that right?
It was three guys.
And it was cut. It was a couch, yeah, and it was cut. But watching Jerry do the acting, he just can embody it immediately. And I believe exactly what you just said. I'm a firm believer in set by example, and that's why I mean, it's harder the older you get, but I go, if I can do it at 104, then you can do it at 24.
And you know, I want to get back to one thing about his style, but because sometimes I think as a director and a choreographer myself, I'm not much of a choreographer anymore, but I kind of have to live everything out in my head, right? I have to play every part and see it from all different sides. Is that how you work too? Or, you know, how does the creative process work for you?
Oh my God. I think it depends on the piece, but for me, the beginning of the creative process is the book. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, the book. I read it, listen, then music, what it does, how it inspires me. And then what do I want to accomplish from the end of the scene, top a song, through the song, if there's a written dance break, what happens in that dance break that then connects the dot to the next vocal reentry, to end of song, to next scene. Mm-hmm. So what is that arc? You know, so that's what I figure, okay, what happens here? What do I want to do? What hasn't been said that's being said in dialogue? So that's my first, like, okay, then once I figure out what concept, what that is, then I get in the room and try to find out what the vocabulary is. And I don't allow anybody in the room when I do that. That is so personal for me and private. Like I have to, well, where do we live? And it's usually, I know it's usually 8 counts or 16 counts. And I go, there it is. And I'll find stylistically and once I figure that out, then I'm like, boom. But sometimes that'll take me forever. For where do I live? Where am I going to live in this, in movement wise? Once I figure that out, then I start creating. And then when I feel like, oh, I've got something pieced together, like, and I do the men's part, the women's part, the boy, you know, okay, if he's going to meet me, how do I react? I do that. Then I'll bring in my assistants and then I'll teach them. And then I put it on them and go, okay, does that work? It's not going to work. But I can see everything visually. Like if it's a big number, I know I can see patterns. I can see how it moves. And I only need 4 people in the room usually. Then when I get the full cast, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I have to change. But that's kind of my basic how I work creatively as a choreographer.
So you almost visually, first it's aesthetic, it's a feeling, but then visually you like storyboard how it's going to go. And
I storyboard. That's actually great. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And I do think, I hate to keep going back to JoAnn, but for me too, he is so good at it, was so good at it. It's about the storytelling, right? What's the narrative of the number and of the dance break? What's the messaging? And then how are you going to deliver that? And that was what was so key and so great about him, and how he could get into one tiny little step and tell you what that meant.
Right.
You know? And one of the numbers that most impressed me about Drum Robbins was the Charleston.
Oh, love that number.
Charleston from $1 Billion Baby. We all know there's like 4 different steps to a Charleston, right? Little swivel foot, a step kick. There's not that many variations, but the way he could sculpt that and paint it on characters and make those same steps mean different things,
right,
to different people. That was what was so fascinating.
Yeah, that was a great piece. And all the different characters in that number, right? There was so many different characters that would come out and they would be introduced, and you're like, oh, it's like a flapper party, you know, some coming into a club or something. And then it all pieced together. Then you saw all these different characters in the same room at the same time, getting drunk, whatever, you know what I mean? And it was just, and you're right, just doing very simple steps, everyone doing the same step at certain times, but how different it was on each person because of who they were and how they interpreted it because of his direction and what he and how he was able to express that. I agree. That is the main reason why he is my idol. As hard as he could be, as a creator, he is my idol. As a person, I don't know about that, but you know.
I know we all have our Jerry stories. But you've worked with so many choreographers, right?
Yeah, I've been
Droman,
very fortunate.
Chapman,
Hmm.
Rob Marshall.
Robbie Marshall, yes. Michael
Um,
Smuin, let rest
oh,
his
right,
soul.
right, okay.
Hmm.
Who other? I mean, they all have their, Susan. I love
Oh, I
Susan's
love Susan.
queen of the props, and she's just
Yes.
amazing of these intricate numbers with hundreds of people that weave together beautifully. And she knows every single person. I did Christmas Carol with her with 90 people. She knew where everybody was at every moment. But
She's a class act.
yeah, class.
She's a class act. Yes.
Yes. But who else inspires you as a choreographer? Somebody you've worked with?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think they all do in a way. And I mean, the thing is, when you work with creators, or anybody, everyone has a different way of doing something, of interpreting something, of teaching something. And you, and being in the room with each individual creator, you take away what works best for you, I think, right? And so those, and I'm a firm believer. I'm a firm believer that there is no original idea. Every idea is begotten because of an inspiration from something else, and then you make it your own, and then you present it, and then maybe it inspires someone else who then takes it, and then they mold it, and then they spew it their way, but however they're inspired. And so everyone I've worked with, I've been so lucky to work with great directors, great choreographers, great dancers, great actors that, when you find someone that speaks to you, you go, oh, I get it. I'll watch them, and you can latch onto them. Somehow it gets in there, and it feeds your creativity. Or if you're acting or a dancer, it feeds you as an artist.
Right.
So I think it's hard. I mean, I can pick out Jerry Robbins because, one, it was my first Broadway show, and he's Jerry Robbins. He's fantastic. He was brilliant. He was also of the time where storytelling became incredibly important in musical theater. Starting from Oklahoma, where it was not just in one to change the scenery, right?
Right.
So I take him because he was one of the originals to do that in the musical theater world, right? And I also think why his ballets are also great. And I always say that you can take any one of his pieces out of context, and 99% of the time, you'll understand what's going on, because they are stories within themselves.
Right.
That's key, right? As opposed to just a dance number. And dance is great, but there are a lot of great dancers out there, but if you don't have something to say, if there's not a reason why you do it, then after 5 minutes, I'm okay, next. I need to invest in the situation or the human being on the stage.
And you and I have worked together. We've danced together, and we've done shows together, directing and choreographing together. And then I've watched you grow into a director on your own. And we have a similar thing too, in that, like you said, there are amazing dancers. But for me, I need more than that, right? You want a dancer who acts and understands, and it's as much about the face and the feeling as it is about the technique. Because a beautiful dancer that's dead from the neck up, to me, is nothing. It just it doesn't move me in any way. And you want to work with a company of people, and I also want to work with people who are going to bring better ideas than what I have. Like, you want to give them something and let them add another layer and make it better, right?
Yes, completely. I always say when people come into an audition for me, I try to have a synopsis. This is what, right now, I don't know if this is what's going to end up in the show, but in this room, this is what we're doing. Right. I say, please don't walk into this room without a point of view, without something to offer. You would not come to my house. I'm looking at my camera. This was better. You would not come to my house or someone else's house without a bottle of wine or flowers. Don't walk into this room without something.
Right.
So so to me, you have to, and if it's not the right one, that's okay. At least you come with a point of view. You come with an objective. And then whoever's in the front of the room can mold you, can help you with that, can help guide you. But doing this is so much harder than going, great, okay, now let me edit. Now let me help mold it. And I agree. I mean, technique, when you have great technique, it's fantastic. And a good technique is a dime a dozen. But when you're dancing, I say, I don't want to see that technique. Leave it outside the door. I want to see you dance. I always say, I love when people dance on the precipice, on the danger of falling. I want to see you open up your soul and go, oh, I said, oh, sorry. But like that is exciting. That's what draws you in. You never, as an audience member, or I say to I say to people, and when you're in the audience, when you sit like this, you're not engaged. I don't find you're engaged. You're like, okay, it's entertaining, but I want people to sit like this when they're watching. That's what I want. Just like, I want you to be able to draw people in, and you only can do that if you can just open up your chest, your soul, and let them in, draw them in. And so technique, you have to have it. Don't get me wrong. You better have it, but I don't want to see it.
And you want more. I mean, I think the level at which you're working, and we like to work here at Paper Mill too, is, look, the technique is like the baseline, right? Everybody in the room should have that. We're looking for beyond that. And you used a word I use all the time, which is editing. My favorite part about directing is when you hand out the ideas and the map, and then your actors, your dancers layer on the stuff, and what you do is edit. You say, okay, a little less of that, a little more of that. Not that one, give me that. That's what, for me, is really the fun of it all.
And you are brilliant at that, Mark Hoebee. I can say that because I've been fortunate enough to be in the room with you several times. And you're smart too. You're smart, but you're incredibly generous.
Well, you're
not a dictator. You're incredibly generous.
I'm not afraid to take the best idea in the room. I enter every process, and you and I have talked about this, and many times we've stood in front of a room of a company and not had the answer.
No,
right?
Which I love. I love going, I don't know yet. Hold on.
But it can be a little scary.
Yeah.
And we just did Cinderella together, and there were some problems for us in putting that production together. And I love having you by my side, because you're not afraid to be up there to say, we don't know the answer. We're going to try some things. We know this is the problem, but we don't know what the answer is, and we'll find it together. And I think when you're honest and open like that, great ideas come, because they come out of everybody in the room. It could be, the understudy swing who has the right answer. It could be the musical director, it could be you, it could be me, but together we will find it.
Right.
And I just want to, so dancing, amazing, and you and I come from that world, and I think it's informed us as directors and choreographers in two ways. We've worked with great people, and we've worked with challenging people. And so we know what that's like to be on the other side, to be a member of a company and not to trust or to be afraid of the people in charge. Right. So one of the things I love about you is you inspire the company with a sense of joy and fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to be hard work, but we're going to have fun. And trust me, you have to trust you and I when we work together, that will get us to the journey. We'll get to the end together, which is, not everybody has that. Not everybody has that ability to inspire and gain the company's trust, and you do that beautifully. But the first show we did together was Curtains.
We did. Well, you weren't sure you were going to hire me. Just so, see, I put that on film or tape or video, whatever it's called.
Well, I didn't know you as a choreographer.
I know.
We interviewed right here in this table. It wasn't really.
I know.
It was like a conversation, but and I knew you. I respected you as a dancer and everything, but I didn't know you as a choreographer. And we had the greatest conversation, and that was a brilliant production. We had the greatest time. So much fun.
I was great. I loved, it's such a great show. And I mean, Candor and Rupert. I mean, it
Yeah,
was just, yeah.
so fun, and just the celebration of what musical theater is, right?
Yes.
Putting on a show with that murder mystery added in.
Yeah.
And then we did Oliver.
We did Oliver. Yes, with 800 young people. You were like, yeah, there's going to be a few young people. I said, okay, I love working with young people. 800 of them. I was like,
We're only
okay,
48.
that's 800. It's 800 to me.
But then you came back, you've done Grease for us, you did Pump Boys.
That was fun. I love Pump Boys. Yes, I loved it. We had a great cast.
That was a spectacular production. We
had a
had
great
Chris Sieber, Beth Level, and our two Annies.
Yes, who were fun, wonderful, beautiful younger ladies.
But I loved that show too, because I feel like it's a little bit undersung. People think, oh, Annie, it's that kid's show. It's a brilliant piece of writing, and talk about storytelling and choreography. There's not a lot of dance in that show, but that is staging and storytelling for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, we had great people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you had people that are smart. You go, this is what I'm thinking. And, oh yeah, I like that. And so it's that collaborative environment, which is nothing like it. Theater is nothing like it.
Right.
Is the collaboration that happens in the room, and you have to be in the room for that to happen.
And that's the other thing, just talking as a director and a choreographer yourself. When I was young, I used to try to plan out everything, and I realized you can't do that.
No.
It doesn't work. So you have to trust yourself that,
yes.
You plan out some of it. I usually like to have 70, 80%, and then figure out the rest of the room with the company. I mean, how do you do that? Do you choreographically? How much pre-pro, like what do you have when you get in the room?
Oh, I do. I mean, if it's a big dance sequence, I will have a lot of it done. Now it changes, because then I'll go, oh, that's terrible. That's not going to work. That's not going to, I have to figure, but the pre, let's say, what did we just do?
Cinderella. I was going to talk about that one, but yes.
Well, it's a good thing I colored my hair. Okay. Cinderella, the first number where it's a big, outdoor market, right? This is all song first. I don't do any of that. I do that on my feet. Right. Then the big dance sequence I have, and then post. So, I like to work. I like to work on my feet. I work best under pressure. So I like that. Okay, what are you gonna do? I don't know. And before people come in, I'll look around the room. I go, okay, put that card over there. Let's go there. Okay, you're gonna go over there, and I just start as if I were a painter. I'm not a painter because I'm a horrible painter. But so that's how I start doing this. So I don't do any of that pre getting the cast together. It's like the big dance sequences. Yes, I for me also, because I don't want the actors and dancers sitting around like this, waiting for me to come up with a step. I have to have that whole arc done. That way I know what the first part, how to get into that, I can figure out, and then how to get out of that, I can figure out. Right. So that's how I like to work in that way, and coming in prepared. But I definitely, when I work on my feet, I'm like, okay. Or right before it happens, I'll be like looking at the script. Okay, if they came in there, and then I just kind of, hopefully it makes sense. And sometimes I go, whoa, you guys are together? Oh, I don't know how that happened, but it worked out.
But sometimes, you've done your pre-pro, you've done your visual storyboarding.
Yes.
So in the back of your mind, there's some picture somewhere. And
Completely.
A lot of times when those people wind up together, that's what you dreamed of. And
you dream of, and then you're like, oh, that's going to work. Yes.
I do have to say that Cinderella was a bit of an experiment for me, but also, and I was completely honest with you about it. For some reason, our schedules didn't match up going into that project. And we did not have hardly any pre-pro time, you and I together.
We didn't have any pre-pro
we had
time.
A couple of phone calls, and that was
yes.
it. I remember saying to you, I have never been less prepared stepping into a room on day one than in my entire life. And I'm just going to trust that I know what needs to happen and that I have the skills to do it. And you kind of winked at me and were like, we're in the same boat.
That's true.
Right? Just the way life is. And we had a magical cast, magical.
We did.
Ashley Blanchett, Dee
Yeah.
Hoebee, Donna,
Oh,
and a great company of people. But that show was spectacular.
it
And
did.
part of it was, I think, we had the roadmap, but we also had the freedom to discover in the room what was going to work best.
Yes.
And we just pulled and edited and made it magical. I mean, it was really spectacular. I loved that process with you, and I loved that I could trust you enough to say, I am not prepared, as much as I'd like to be, but here we go. It's day one. Put on your dancing shoes and let's go. And
I love when sometimes you go, are you going to do this number? No, I thought you were going to do this number. I thought you were going to take this. I was going to go have a cup of tea.
But that was great. I loved that show. It was a beautiful production. So
It really was. I think I was late in my pre-pro because I wasn't sure of the show on paper. And I'm not saying it's not a good show, but just there were certain things that I was like confused by. And so when we got in the room together, and you and I, when we would talk and we'd go by the piano and go, oh, no, then I started to get more inspired the more we were in the room together.
And for me, it was one of those moments where, same thing to me too. I read the script and I knew Cinderella. This was the new Douglas Carter Bean version. I had not seen the revival. I had not seen that production. I didn't know how they made it work there. So in a way, it was like a brand new show to me and to you. And that was one of those magical moments. And I keep saying magical, but it really was. We're in the room with that cast. We discovered it together and it all made sense.
It did.
That I didn't really feel like I understood. And Ashley Blanchett, beautiful Ashley, who would say, well, what if I do this? And I'd be like, great, try it. And one idea led to another, and it really was spectacular.
It was a good, I was very proud of that production. I thought, and I just loved everybody. And another testament to, people coming in the room, wanting to participate, but also being yes people. I don't like no people. Look at me. I don't like no. Come in the room going, yes, I'll try it. Don't come in going with a closed door, because then forget it. It'll never work.
And Billy and Ashley were beautiful in that too. We were like,
he was great, and he could dance. So I had two leads that could dance, and they were so great.
And I remember saying to her, can you climb up on this? Can you carry that over there? And she's like, yeah, same thing. You're exactly right. Yes. Anyway, and then you came just a few months ago to do Unmasked, which you directed and choreographed for us. You've become kind of the darling of Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Well, I hope it continues.
No, true, right? I mean, you've done a lot of Broadway, On a Clear Day, and School of Rock, Disaster, right? And then Unmasked, and coming up, hopefully, his new Cinderella too.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is great.
Yeah. Another Cinderella. Let's talk a little bit about Unmasked, which was such a great show for us.
It was hard.
Cast too. Amazing cast.
Oh, great. Again, another great people, and this group of actors, singers, dancers.
Yeah.
They were not, dance was the third thing on their resume, or a ... and maybe I danced, you know what I mean? But the fact that every one of them was willing, okay, you guys, so we're not just, because I was like, this is not a park and bark. We're not going to be la, la, la. No, I was like, this is going to be moved. And they all stepped up and tried and did it with enthusiasm. It was so talented, and they got along. I believe they got along so beautifully. Yeah. It was it was a tricky time. But luckily you have great material and you have great people. So it was very fun. And I had great designers. And I was always like, come over here. And thank you. And you are an incredible support to me, Mark Hoebee. And that's why, for your theater, anything, I will. I mean that, because you've always been a great friend, but also a great collaborator, and a true supportive human being, generous human being.
You're so kind. I appreciate that. I feel the same about you. And like I've said, through our lives together, we started out as performers, and then had careers as that. We worked together as choreographer, director, right? In the same
Yes.
room working on projects. And then on Unmasked, really, it was a different role for me and a different relationship for us because I was
Yes.
the producer on that show and you were the director choreographer. You know, those many years and our relationship together, I think a great amount of trust between us. And that was a challenging process putting that show together because
Yes.
we went into rehearsal in December, right? I think it was right after Christmas. It was right after Christmas.
Oh, right. You're right. It was right after Christmas. Was
And
it?
in October, there still wasn't a script for the show.
Right.
And there wasn't even a confirmed song list.
There wasn't a confirmed song list. The song list changed constantly, which is okay because that's part of the process of creating that we know. But yes,
But part
that
of
was.
that was, I think, because Andrew's catalog is so vast, right? How
Yes.
do you choose? I can't remember how many songs were in that show, 18, 23, whatever, out of the decades of shows that he's written, each one, when you look at, Sunset Boulevard or Joseph or, Evita, or each one of those is filled with gems, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
how do you say, because it was much more than just Andrew's greatest hits, because talk a little bit about the story and his videos.
Well, I think that, first of all, talking about the song list, like, figuring it out, what we had to also figure out was the song list that works here in America compared to a list that works better in Britain, compared to a list that might work better in Asia. So that was finding, this doesn't land here.
Right.
So it was really interesting, even though, and you're right, his body of work, there was songs that people didn't even realize that he wrote,
Right.
And the show is not, I'm not going to say it's based on his autobiography, but if you're able to read his autobiography, it's really funny. He is, and people don't know because they think of Andrew as this incredible master storyteller, musician of creating music, and he is, but he's got an incredible sense of humor. So within Unmasked, he was our narrator. He was our leading player, if you will. And so he, to what I said when I first, read this and he approached me, I go, to me, the charm was hearing the stories, like how things are found from the creator themselves. To hear it from their mouth, from their own words, and to watch them is so charming. And he is incredibly charming. And the way we were able to then bleed that into whatever then was transpired on stage. But I think it was key that the audience get a little insight of a creator, of going, oh, and you realize that song, he wrote that song for something else, had different lyrics, then realized, oh, he banked it, put it away, and then pulled it out, rejiggered it a little bit, and next thing you know, it becomes I Don't Know How to Love Him from Jesus Christ Superstar. You're like, what? Like these incredible moments that people don't ever get a chance to see or know, because most of the time, all the time, you see a finished product, as you should.
Right.
But what it takes to come to that finished product, you have the civilians, the people who are not in the theater, have really no true understanding of what it takes to get to that product that you pay for to see. And I think that's what made it special and interesting. And
I agree. I think it was his words, his insights, his explanation of his inspirations, explanation of how he was inspired to write things. And in a way, I don't use this term lightly. I rarely talk about people as geniuses, right? But he is in many ways a genius, and so is Jerome. And when you talk about in that same way, to get that context, right? When Jerome talks about why the Jets do this step, what it means, why the choreography has to be that certain way, and it fills the moment with more meaning than was there before. Same thing with Andrew, when he would talk to the actors about, why a note has, why the scale climbs here, why the song has the peak here, what that lyric does, why it's that word and not another. Again, fills and informs those moments in an incredible way, in a magical way.
Completely. And also, Andrew is a huge fan. He grew up a huge fan of the musical theater, American musical theater.
Yeah.
He wanted to do that in England. He was so inspired by American musical theater and the storytelling and the melodies and so I just love that. Another example that he takes what he grew up listening to and loving, that he was so moved by, and then it gets into his body, and then he spews his own version of it, and becomes an Andrew Lloyd Webber thing. I think I love that, and I love that he's so open about saying these are my idols, these are my inspirations, and they were American songwriters. You know what I mean? Yeah. Composers. Yeah.
Well, he became the most successful Broadway composer of all time, so yeah. I guess he's living his dream.
Yeah, living the dream.
Yeah, we were honored to host that premiere here, that American premiere, to have him here on site with his team. They were incredibly supportive, and to have you at the helm of that show. And just before we wrap up, you've been so kind to be with us, but give us a little hint about Cinderella, which is the next project I know you're working on with him.
Yes. Well, slated. It just got moved. We're slated for start rehearsals end of January, opening in London in April.
Amazing. I'll be there.
So,
booking my flight.
You'll be my date. Oh. No, it's a brand new version. The music is Andrew's written music that in a way plays homage to the R&H, but it's very modern. It's sexy. And the Cinderella is a very different type of female. Very, very different. The twist that Emerald has put on this concept is quite great. And it's about owning yourself, not having to conform, owning who you are, and that's okay. And I anything that says that about yourself, I think is a great moral. You know what I mean? I think it's gonna be sexy. There's a I can't say too many of the song. I can't say any song yet because I'll get in trouble. But there's a song that's got men in it that can be really sexy.
You are so wonderful. I couldn't love you more. I
love you, Mark.
Proud of you, your accomplishments, your incredible career. And I just love that we have such a long relationship. I can't wait for the next project that brings you back to Paper Mill. And I hope it's something that we can work on together. That would make it even better for me.
My career is been supported because of you.
No, you're kind.
That's an honest to God, it's a fact. So thank you.
Well, you're very sweet. I love you. Thank you for spending time with us. I'll see you very soon.
All right. Bye, Mark Hoebee.
Thanks for joining us. And remember about our other online offerings. Each Thursday night at 7 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube, we are airing our Humanities Symposium series. And on Mondays at 7 p.m., also on YouTube and Facebook, we're airing our New Voices concerts. And join me next week when we have a little Cinderella reunion with the stars Ashley Blanchett and Billy Harrigan-Tai. See you then.